All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at something that's super important in India. I'm talking about the court system.
Absolutely. And, whether you are a UPSC aspirant or just a citizen trying to be, more aware, understanding how justice is delivered in this country is key.
Yeah, you can't really get around it. So today, we're going to be going beyond the Supreme Court. We're not talking about the big headline cases. We're going to be exploring those courts that you or I might actually encounter.
Right, like the courts you might actually have to go to.
Exactly. We're talking subordinate courts, Lok Adalats family courts. We'll even touch upon mobile courts, bringing justice straight to the villages.
To the people.
Yeah. Be prepared for some surprises, because I know I was surprised when I was doing the research for this. So
It is fascinating how most people just picture, a courtroom like we see in movies.
Oh, yeah.
But India's judicial system is so much more diverse than that. There's this intricate network of courts to handle, the sheer volume and variety of cases we have all across the country.
So you're saying there's like a whole world of courts beyond the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
It's like those iceberg diagrams.
Yeah.
You only see the tip.
And the base of that iceberg, the base handling the bulk of everyday disputes is this vast network of subordinate courts spread across districts and towns. These courts are the real workhorses of the system.
Okay. So these subordinate courts, they're handling the, shall we say, the more common disputes.
Yes, things like property disputes, minor offenses, that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
But don't let that fool you.
Yeah.
Within this network are district courts. They're led by district judges who have a significant amount of power.
Okay.
They can even preside over, serious criminal cases, some carrying life sentences or even the death penalty. Although in those cases, the high court has the final say.
Wow. So there's a lot more weight to these courts than I initially thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It makes sense, though. You wouldn't want every small dispute to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. That would be...
It would be chaos.
It would be chaos. But it does make me wonder, how do we ensure that these district judges with so much power are impartial and qualified?
Well, that's where the appointment process comes in.
Right.
The governor appoints district judges, but it's not a single-handed decision.
No.
They have to consult with the high court, ensuring expertise and minimizing any political influence.
So there are checks and balances in place.
Absolutely.
Phew. All right, that makes me feel a little bit better. But tell me, this control the high court has over the subordinate courts, I'm talking about postings, promotions, leave.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make the lower courts subservient?
It's not about subservience. It's about accountability.
Okay.
It's about ensuring judicial independence.
Right.
This separation from the executive branch and from political pressures, it's vital for judgments, to be fair.
Yeah.
Think of it as the high court acting as a guardian of justice. They're making sure things run smoothly and fairly in the lower courts.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, especially when we're talking about ensuring a fair trial for everyone.
Precisely.
But what's really intriguing is this concept of Lok Adalats.
Oh, yes.
Courts without winners or losers, where the focus is on compromise. It almost sounds too good to be true.
Well, it's not about being too good, but about recognizing that sometimes, a mutually agreeable solution is just more effective than a court battle.
Right.
And what's often overlooked is the historical significance of Lok Adalats.
Yeah.
One of our sources beautifully describes it as, an old form of adjudicating system. It says its validity has not been taken away even in the modern days. It's taking ancient wisdom and applying it to our modern day problems.
I like that. So we're talking about a blend of tradition and practicality.
Yes.
What kind of cases do these Lok Adalats handle?
The range is surprisingly wide.
Okay.
From family disputes to bank recoveries, even pre-litigation issues. They offer a quicker and more affordable route to justice, which is especially important in a country like India, where court cases can drag on for years.
Wait a minute. Hold on. No court fees, A&D faster resolution?
That's right.
You're telling me Lok Adalats are like the express lane to justice?
In a way, yes. And there's more.
Okay.
The decisions made in Lok Adalats are final and binding, just like a decree from a civil court.
Wow.
It really makes you wonder, if Lok Adalats could be a key part of the solution to India's infamous court backlog.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, imagine if more people opted for this route.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it free up the regular courts to focus on the more complex cases?
It's a compelling thought, for sure. Especially when you consider the potential for Lok Adalats to, really promote harmony within communities.
Oh, absolutely.
I read a story recently about a property dispute between two families that had been going on for years,
Oh, wow.
tearing the whole village apart.
Yeah.
But then they took it to a Lok Adalat, and they managed to reach a compromise that everyone could live with.
That's great.
It's amazing how these courts can bring people together instead of driving them further apart.
That's a great example of, you know how Lok Adalats can have a positive social impact.
Yes.
It's not just about resolving the legal issue, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
It's about healing relationships and restoring peace.
Absolutely.
And speaking of specialized courts, have you heard about permanent Lok Adalats?
Oh, yes.
They're specifically designed for disputes related to public utility services,
Right.
like electricity, water, telecommunications.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about those.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense to have a dedicated system for those kinds of disputes because we can't have people waiting months or years for their electricity to be reconnected.
Exactly. The idea is to ensure a very swift resolution.
Right.
And to prevent those disruptions to essential services. And unlike regular Lok Adalats, which rely solely on compromise,
Yeah.
permanent Lok Adalats actually have the authority to decide the case on merit if the parties can't reach an agreement.
That's a key difference. So even if you can't see eye to eye with, say, the electricity company, there's still a mechanism for getting a resolution.
Exactly.
But I do wonder, is there a limit to the kinds of cases they can handle? What if the dispute is really complex or involves a large sum of money?
Well, you've hit on an important point.
Yeah.
Permanent Lok Adalats do have a jurisdictional limit.
Okay.
The claim amount cannot exceed 10 lakh rupees.
Okay.
And the dispute must involve public utility services.
Okay, so it is specialized.
It is a specialized system designed for a specific purpose.
Makes sense. It's like having a specialized tool for a specific job.
Exactly.
But speaking of specialized courts, let's shift gears a little bit to family courts.
Right.
These are designed to handle the often complex and emotionally charged disputes that arise within families.
Right. Navigating family disputes requires a very different approach
For sure.
compared to, say, a contract dispute.
Yeah.
Emotions run high and the stakes are deeply personal.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when children are involved.
Right. And I think what sets family courts apart is that focus on conciliation and the well-being of the entire family unit, not just on declaring a winner and a loser.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the legal arguments. It's about finding solutions that work for everyone involved.
Exactly. Family courts often involve, social welfare agencies and counselors to provide support and guidance.
Oh, wow.
And unlike other courts, legal representation isn't mandatory, although the court can seek expert assistance, if needed.
So it's a much less adversarial environment and more supportive.
It is.
But that doesn't mean it's any less serious, right? The decisions made by family courts can have a profound impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. These courts have the authority to make decisions regarding divorce, child custody, alimony, property division.
Wow.
Their rulings are legally binding and enforceable.
It's really interesting to see how the Indian judicial system has evolved to create these specialized courts to address specific needs.
It has.
And speaking of innovation,
Yeah.
let's talk about Graham Nyayalayas.
Yes.
Those mobile courts that travel to villages, bringing justice right to people's doorsteps.
That's right.
I have to say the concept is pretty incredible.
It is a remarkable initiative.
Right.
It's aimed at bridging the gap between the formal legal system and rural communities.
Right.
Imagine a judge familiar with local customs and nuances,
Yeah.
arriving in a village to resolve disputes
Yeah.
in a way that resonates with the community. It's a human touch that's often missing in our traditional courts.
It's like bringing justice back to its roots,
Exactly.
making it accessible and relatable to people who might otherwise feel alienated or intimidated by the formal legal system.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, what kind of powers do these mobile court judges have?
Well, the presiding officer is called a Nyayadakari,
Okay.
and they have powers similar to a first-class magistrate.
Okay.
They handle both civil and criminal matters.
Wow.
And they use a simplified procedure that's guided by the principles of natural justice,
Okay.
prioritizing fairness and practicality.
So they're empowered to make real decisions,
They are.
not just offer advice or mediation.
Correct.
And the relaxed rules of evidence you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
That must make a huge difference for people in rural areas who might not have access to lawyers or legal expertise.
Exactly. It's about making the process less daunting and more focused on achieving, a just outcome.
Right.
But let's be realistic, rolling out thousands of these mobile courts across India,
Yeah,
it's a massive undertaking.
it is.
It's been a slow process, and there are definitely challenges.
For sure. Things like infrastructure funding and training personnel in such a decentralized system
Right.
must be very complex.
Absolutely. And there's also the ongoing debate, about balancing the informality of the process
Yeah.
with the need for legal rigor.
Right.
How do we ensure consistency and quality of judgments across such a vast and diverse system?
Right.
It's a work in progress, but the potential impact is enormous.
I agree. And for our listeners who are preparing for the UPSC exams, understanding these grassroots courts and their challenges is crucial.
It is.
It's not just about rote learning. It's about analyzing policies, evaluating their effectiveness, and perhaps even coming up with solutions for improvement.
It really is a fascinating case study for anyone interested in law, or governance or social justice.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not just about rural areas either. All these different types of courts, like Adalats family courts, Nyayalayas, they represent these alternative pathways to justice,
Right.
catering to a variety of needs and circumstances across India.
It's like we're seeing the Indian judicial system evolve right in front of us,
Absolutely.
adapting to the needs of such a diverse and rapidly changing society.
Yes.
We've got this blend of traditional wisdom with modern approaches, a focus on access and efficiency, but without compromising on fairness.
Think of it as a multi-pronged approach to addressing the legal challenges of, a nation as vast and complex as India. And this understanding is precisely what sets apart a well-informed citizen, or for those aspiring for UPSC, a successful candidate.
Because it's one thing to know the structure of the courts,
Yes.
but it's another to analyze their impact, their strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
For example, understanding why the implementation of Nyayalayas has been slow requires a deeper understanding of, the ground realities, the logistical challenges, and maybe even the political will.
Absolutely. And for our listeners who may be thinking, this is a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah?
You don't need to memorize every detail.
Right.
The key is to grasp the underlying principles, the logic behind the system, and to think critically about the issues at hand.
It's about connecting the dots, seeing how everything fits together,
Yes.
and then asking those what-if questions. Like, what if these courts that are designed for efficiency and accessibility could also play a role in shaping a more just and equitable society?
Now that's where it gets really interesting, because these courts aren't just about resolving disputes.
Right.
They're also about empowering individuals and communities.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the role of Lok Adalats, in promoting compromise and reconciliation,
Yes.
especially in areas where traditional conflict resolution mechanisms might be breaking down.
Or consider family courts and their focus on protecting the rights of women and children, who are often the most vulnerable members of a family during disputes.
Absolutely.
It's about making sure the law serves those who need it most.
It is.
And then you have Nyayalayas literally bringing justice to the doorstep of marginalized communities who might otherwise have to travel long distances and face numerous hurdles to access the legal system.
It's like we're weaving justice into the very fabric of society.
Yeah.
Making it more accessible, more relatable, and hopefully more equitable.
I like that.
It's an ongoing process, of course, and there are certainly challenges ahead.
Of course.
We've talked about some of them, the need for resources, training, the balance between informality and legal rigor. But I think the bigger question is, can these courts truly address the root causes of inequality? Or are they just Band-Aids on, deeper wounds?
That's a question for all of us to think about, not just UPSC aspirants.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, understanding the nuances of the Indian judicial system isn't just about passing an exam.
No.
It's about becoming informed and engaged citizens,
Yes.
equipped to participate in the ongoing conversation about how to make justice truly accessible and equitable for all.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a more just society.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This deep dive is just the beginning of that journey.
Well said.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe one of you listening today will be the one to come up with the next big innovation in India's judicial system. Until next time, keep learning, keep thinking, and most importantly, stay curious.